Hello world, and welcome to this week's episode of Google Plus Developers Live. I'm Gus Class, a developer programs engineer on Google Plus, and today joining me is a special guest, Louis Gray.
I don't know if special is the right word. I'm here for Google Developers Live all the time. It is always my pleasure to join you, especially about one of my favorite products here at Google, Google Plus.
Well, it's great to have you, and you're always welcome on the show, Louis.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So this is going to be an episode covering best practices for Google Plus, and this is sort of the third in a series that we've started. And if you want to have like a little preview of what we're going to be showing today, we'll be talking about interactive posts and targeting them in unique ways.
So interactive posts. Now you mentioned a second ago, you said best practices for Google Plus, but we're not talking about best practices on how to use Google Plus or when to post or when to look at your stream or any of those things from a consumer side. We're talking more on the developer angle.
Yeah.
Because we are a developer show. That's what we do here. So you want to talk about interactive posts. What are these things anyway? They're kind of new.
Yes,
Tell me more.
So interactive posts, we like to think of them as a new way of sharing. So as opposed to the traditional shares that we've done on Google+, interactive posts now have a call to action, such as download or attack or view, that allows you to... Attack is, yes, one of them.
Not attach.
Attack. Yes. So if you wanted to have a call to action that would cause users in each other's streams to attack each other inside of your application, this new way of sharing allows you to directly bring users in and then perform actions within your applications. So this is kind of new, and we're very excited about it, and it's been kind of one of the key launch features that we had. And it added a lot of stuff that people were looking for, like being able to pre-fill text inside of the interactive post. And yeah, so we're all really excited about it.
I just want to hear more about attack.
Attack,
hopefully we'll get into that.
Yes, this was one of our demos that we were going to show for I/O.
Cool.
Anyways, if you remember last week, we were talking about ways to improve the sign-in experience by dynamically rendering scopes. And if you take a look at the site from last week, we can kind of show you that one more time. And let's see. So what we'd started with was kind of like a real conventional sign-in button, and we replaced it instead with this custom sign-in button. And when that renders, you get this pop-up that allows you to choose the scopes that you're going to be using for the app. So I'll turn on Google Drive and Google+, and then here's a consent dialog that's real common if you've ever seen an application that's using Google+. And then the thing that we've done on the first show happens now, and the user's profile information is animated in, and they're drawn into the app to kind of have that emotional connection. So by rendering those scopes, by rendering the scopes dynamically inside of the sign-in button, you're able to draw more users to sign in for your app because they're able to trust this application and the things that they're sharing with you. And then by rendering that profile in a unique way and drawing the user's eye to it and welcoming them once they come back into your applications, you're able to build that emotional connection, which is something that social is all about.
Now you talked pretty quick through that consent dialog.
Yeah.
It's kind of fast as I've seen it in here in a while. So what is it exactly that Google Plus is asking for in terms of access, and how does the user determine what they're willing to share? Because in my mind, not every application should have access to everything that I do on Google Plus.
Yep.
So how, I know we've talked about before, what is something that either the developer has to look for or the user has to look for when granting access to an app like this?
Sure. So I'll bring up the dialog again, and we'll look at two different ones. So here is just the Google Plus sign-in dialog. And if you look on here, there's two fields. There's the one on the top underneath of the "this app would like to," and this is what information, the first bar is the information that you're sharing with Google Plus, and the information that the application has access to and who has access to that information. So then the second set allows you to control how or who can see that information about that this app is creating. So if we render it again, we're going to show it with an additional scope now. So here's Google Drive and Google Plus. When I click the sign-in button, we'll get a different consent dialog.
So now there's 3 bars there.
Now there's 3 bars. So this additional bar is requesting information to be able to view files and documents in your Google Drive. So Some people get scared when they see this, and by just by kind of controlling how that appears, you can allow people to be comfortable with sharing what they like to share.
And I think what's critical for the user in this case is because you're giving it access to Google Drive, it explicitly calls it out. It's not obfuscated, it's not vague. It says, look, if you're going to need access to Google Drive, well, by gum, here's access to Google Drive. And if you need access to Google+, here's access to Google+. And because Google has this shared backend of the two systems working together, we should explicitly call that out and not just vaguely say Google.
Yeah.
And that we should let the users know always exactly what the applications can do. And so while, as you mentioned, it is more messaging to read through, at least the user knows exactly what they're getting into when they're giving an application more accessibility.
Exactly. So you never want to surprise someone with information that they haven't seen, or that they didn't know they were sharing with you. Because yeah, if someone's private information starts getting surfaced inside of your app, then that's going to create all sorts of problems.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so here's the consent dialog, and this time I'm showing it to enable access to my Google Drive files. And then the other thing that we'd done before was we brought in the user's photos, and now we have the photos. We should allow them to share those photos with people. So what we're going to do is we're going to render an interactive post when a user clicks on a particular photo. So I don't know what's going on with my resolution, but here's a dialog, and here's the share dialog that I've created. So inside of here is just this share button, and that is just an HTML button. You can take pretty much any HTML container and then can render an interactive post into that, and I'll show you the code in just a second. But yeah, so this is it, and now when I click share, the last group, or the last set of people that I was sharing with, will appear inside of the to field. So this is a really good default, and a lot of people start with it. So this is a great starting point for sharing, and this is a great way to allow users to kind of have more whatever their last default settings were, they just get brought in.
Now, I noticed I'm taking a look at this snippet. Now you have, this is so cute, which is a pre-filled text that's on there.
Yep.
And then you have a photo, and then it says doc/number, etc. Now, maybe it makes sense to a machine,
yeah.
But since we're working with social, working with humans, how could a developer clean it up so that that snippet is a little bit better?
So what a developer could do is they can control the way that content appears within the stream, and they can control the way that app activities appear inside of their app activities and their application settings by writing a snippet. So the snippet is just microdata, which is kind of an annotation that is added to mark up on your page. And those annotations can then be tied to elements, and then what Google does is they calculate the way that this will render, the way that this will appear, based on that microdata that's on your page. So, for example, the microdata on this page is just not there. So Google tries to do the best that they can, and so they may be pulling this in from the title, they may be pulling this in from metadata on the content target. I'm not sure specifically where this is coming from, but this is a great topic perhaps for a future best practices episode where we
Sure.
can look into improving this experience even more by using a snippet and microdata.
Excellent. Cool. I'll let you continue. I don't want to get in your way.
Awesome. Yeah, no problem. So now the user can share, and let's see how that's done. So here's the code for rendering that's rendering the interactive post as I'm doing it there. And what you need for an interactive post is a content URL, which contains the content target. So this is what populates the image and so on. And then you have a call to action URL, which is what happens when the user clicks the interactive share button. So for example, this one says download, and this is the content target that will be used when the user clicks that download button. And then the last thing that we're passing here is people IDs, and we'll get to that in a second because I'm not using it yet. But you can see that all of these options are set inside of a JSON structure, and then they're passed to the Gappy interactive post render with the container that will be used to contain that interactive post. So going back to our site, we have this experience. Let's make it better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the mode of the site And this is a live site, so I mean, if you want to check it out, you're welcome to.
And what's the URL for this guy? This is 2cute.com.
Is2cute.com, yes.
Hashtag better.
So
now,
this is
that seems a little simple. I could just do hashtag better, and you're telling me my site automatically gets better. Is that what happens?
I think that would be a pretty
that would be a nice
awesome
hack.
feature. I'm pretty sure someone's requested it.
We should talk to the Chrome team about that.
Chrome team, yes. Okay, so all right, so now we have the same site with an experience that's slightly different. Now, let's say that what I want to happen when that user performs an interactive share is that it lets me know and it lets Lewis know, so that as curators of the site, we can find this cute thing, download it, and add it to the site. So in doing this, I think that sharing publicly is not going to be the right way to do it. And also mandating that the user find us on Google+, or that they have to be in our in circles in order to appear immediately within that share dialog, it's not as good of an experience for the user. So instead, now when we share, something magical happens. The share button gets rendered again, and now Lewis and I are pre-populated inside of the share box. So I'll show you how to do this in a minute, but let's see something else that happens when I click share. So because the interactive post was targeted to specific people, those specific people will receive notifications across Google that somebody has shared something with them of great relevance. So when you share something directly with someone, you get higher engagement because each of those individuals will receive notifications. So let's see what that notification looks like on my machine. If everything went as expected. So now this interactive post is shared with me, and by clicking it, I get this experience for that interactive post directly from within my Google Calendar. So this is a really powerful way to bring users into your app through sort of organic or viral growth.
And that's pretty cool. I actually got the same notification. I mean, you sent it to yourself, you sent it to me, and so I have the same capability with the same download feature over on my computer. Now, we're not sharing two computers at once, just believe it's there.
Yes.
So that is pretty cool. I mean, you basically know who it's going to get targeted to. You're getting a direct message, essentially, saying that they're getting a notification on this post, and I can take an action. And in this case, it was to download that image. And so the cute puppy or the gopher that you were showing gets directly to me.
Awesome. Yeah, like so in doing that, we're able to draw in more users. And let's just take a look at and see how it's done. So here is almost the exact same code that I showed you before. And you'll notice if I just flip between the two, that this extra line, recipients, is added to the JSON that is passed to the Gappy interactive post render. And so what you need to put into this field of people IDs is going to be Google user IDs, and these can be retrieved from people list, or you can put in email addresses directly. And so when you do this, you're able to either draw on more users by email address or by the connections that a user has on Google+, or directly to an individual, which is sort of the non-conventional way that I've shown it today. So this is good. We're targeting interactive posts now, and users are receiving notifications, which is drawing in higher engagement and more users who are using your app and being brought into your app from the Google+ stream. Now, let's see one more way that we can kind of get creative. And
how about more awesome?
Or more awesomer.
Let's get more
okay,
awesome.
more awesome, sorry. And so let's look at it, one more thing that we can do. So again, like the best practices here are just really think about creative ways that you can create an experience that's right for your site. And for my site, let's say that I want to have a feature where someone can share things that are cute with the people who they are the most relevant to share with, the people that they care the most about, or that they're engaging with the most, or that they're emailing the most, and so on. With Google+, you're able to do this. So let's do this share one more time. And now I said share. And now what I can do is I can select some people, some specific people to share with. So now what I can do is if I select these 10 people, or these 5 people, or these 10 people, and click share, inside of that share dialog, those people have been dynamically added to the share.
Now that was a pretty cool demo. I mean, you've got avatars of the people down below, automatically fills them in. It's not just a list of names by text, right?
Yep.
And I'm kind of used to that scenario where you have to know the user's explicit username, or you have to know their name and you pull it from a bit of text. And this is much more personal. I'm going to recognize your avatar maybe even more than I recognize you in real life, just because I see you online all the time. And this kind of seems like a quick way for the user to find their friends rapidly and hit the buttons.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
So yeah, so you can pre-populate that, and then these up to 10 people will receive notifications across Google, telling them, you know, whatever your call to action is, and then rendering this within their stream and across Google inside of that notifications area. So we'll look at the code one more time, and just to sort of see how much I'm doing in addition to what just the minimum is for sharing in order to do this. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to render a picker for the best people to share with. And so this is a special feature of Google+. And what it does is it calculates who the best people are across, you know, like across all of your friends and people who you've circled and shared with this app, or people who you've made visible to this app. And then it calculates just who are the most relevant people for this particular user. So I'm doing this API call for plus people list, and that's that magic field that I'm adding is order by best. And I'm doing something else here that is a good thing to do, and I'm filtering the content that comes back to just contain URL and the user's ID and then their image URL. But that's probably a topic best saved for another best practices session again. And then what I'm doing is I'm just rendering that HTML inside of the picker. Now the next thing that happens is sort of it's the last piece where you need to do something extra because of this interaction that you're building, and that is you need to re-render the share button inside of your page. And so when you render that share button, Google will change all of the content within there so that it's hooked up to Google services. So when you do that, it's difficult to retrieve that area again. So what I do is I have a container outside of the target container that I then use to empty that surrounding container, and then I can use the same target URL that I was using before, or the same target for that container that I was using before. So that pretty much sums it up. There's to sort of recap real quickly, by targeting interactive posts, what you can do is you can trigger those notifications across Google, and you can draw more users into your apps directly from the Google+ stream and directly from the Google notifications area.
Right within your app.
Right
and
within
from your site.
App. Yes.
And so one of the questions I have, as a user who might be targeted by one of your notifications, since I expect I'm automatically in your best, and we'll talk about that soon. But if I'm automatically notified, do I get a notification of which app it was from? Like, is this some sort of enhanced visibility for the developer whose application uses this content? Do I get to know if it came from it's2cute.com or whatever this project is?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a great branding opportunity when you're rendering the interactive post, and you can control it through pre-fill text, and you can it will also surface it'll also resurface within other places inside of that interactive post. So yes.
So it's another way to drive more installs, more visibility, more access to more people.
Yes.
So it's not only better for the application user, it's better for the recipients of content, and it's better for the developers themselves. So that's why this is critical, right? It's not just a new feature because we could do it, it's because it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do for users. It's the right thing to do for developers, and so it's kind of a win-win when we launched it. We were real excited about how this is going to improve the experience for all the people who are developing and consuming products that incorporate the Google+ platform. So,
cool. Yes,
very exciting. And yeah, do you have any other questions, Louis?
No, I think we answered them right the way through. I've seen a number of interactive posts as it has just rolled out, a few applications getting that started, and I think every single week when we hear from the Google+ team here on Google+ Developers Live, we get to understand more of the assets that are being used, more of the applications that are getting into this, and I think we're going to learn more every single week.
Yes, actually, that reminds me. We're always keeping our eyes open for sites in the wild that are doing these kinds of creative things with the Google Plus platform. Please feel free to mention me or to mention the Google Developers page if you're doing something that you think kind of stands out and is unique, because it's. I mean, I'm always delighted when I visit a website and then I see them doing something creative that really will improve the experience for users and probably draw up engagement for that particular website.
Absolutely. And I think just to piggyback on that, I mean, this is your show. This is Google Plus Developers Live. It's about you guys. It's about making your applications better and making the experience better for our users. And so as you find new applications that take advantage of Google Plus sign-in, that take advantage of Google Plus interactive posts, or any of the features that are rolling out on Google Plus platform, we want to hear about it, and you'll probably be showcased here on Google Plus Developers Live.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks for coming in today.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back so next week we probably will not have another best practices episode. I will be taking a short break. But the week after or sometime after that, I'll probably be back with additional best practices to share with you guys. So please feel free to ask any questions in the event and so on. We'll try to follow up afterwards. And yeah, enjoy developing with the Google Plus platform and using products that incorporate us.
Thanks, Gus.